We get different types of rock geometries when we get folds in rocks. And even though rocks are solid, if they're under heat and pressure, they can actually be deformed in a manner that we call ductile. And ductile deformation would be something like Play-Doh or a slice of bread that is not going to break, but it just kind of gets deformed by getting folded around. So if we kind of think about some sheets of ductile material and we start pushing them together, then the ductile material would start going up and down. So it has to, if we're pushing this together, it has to have the same length here as it does here. It's just taking up less room from side to side. So the way that it does that is it gets these upward bends in them and downward bends in them. And we see this all the time in different layers of rocks. When things get folded upward like this, like an arch, we call that an anticline, A-N-T-I-C-L-I-N-E. So an anticline is a upward fold in the rocks in a ductile fashion. And if we look at a map of what that would look like, here's what we would see from the side. This would be the cross section, and we can see the oldest rocks are in green down here. The youngest rocks are in this peachish color at the top here. And we can see that all in the cross section, but now on the map itself, if we were walking across this area, we would first be in these these youngest pink rocks, then we would be in older brown rocks, then we would be in even older rocks that kind of have this tire tread on them, then brown rocks again, and peach rocks. So we have a pattern where the oldest rocks appear in the middle of the map. There's younger rocks on either side, and the youngest ones appear on the edge as we move further out. We could also note that we might be able to tell by how the rocks are sticking out of the ground at the top here, but these rocks would be kind of downward into the ground towards the right, but these rocks would be downward in the ground towards the left. So sometimes we put arrows on maps to indicate which way the rocks are going down into the ground. And of course, right at the very top here, they would actually be flat. These rocks are right at the top of the arch, so there would be a little area of flat rocks right here. So that's what the pattern of an anticline on a map would look like. If rocks are bent downward, like in this example here, we call that a syncline, S-Y-N-C-L-I-N-E. And with synclines, we get a different pattern of rocks on the surface. So once again, looking at it from the side or a cross-sectional view, we still have the youngest rocks in orange or in peach at the top of the pile, and we have the oldest rocks in green at the bottom. But what we see on the map is we have the youngest rocks in the middle, and then they get older and older as we move off to either side. That's one difference. Instead of having the oldest rocks in the middle, now we have the youngest rocks in the middle for a syncline, and all of the rocks are dipping down into the ground or going down into the ground towards the center of the syncline. So these rocks would be going down into the ground towards the right. These rocks will be going down into the ground towards the left. And we once again would have flat rocks right in the middle of the syncline where we get right to the bottom of this U shape. Right in this area here, the rocks that we were walking across would be flat here. And of course, synclines and anticlines can occur right next to each other, right? It's just that same layer, it's just been ductily deformed. So we can have an anticline next to a syncline, and that could be next to another anticline. And we just see this pattern over and over again as we get into areas of folded rocks.